Just to get things started, I lay out sort of two pieces of information. A, there's a clear need uh, for us to start working on this resilience and recovery agenda. And B, there are real challenges for the investors as well.
Of course, companies were very fast to adapt. Conserving the cash became the biggest focus for everyone, and people started to. When we talk about job losses and all, I mean, that was one of the things we were very focused on as to the companies which are fundamentally sound. How can we support them? And from the investment perspective, one of the things we did is we had phenomenal set of partners who put together an emergency fund. Within a month, we had $5 million raised for emergency fund, and we were able to deploy within India for emergency purposes. This was not for investment. This is, of course, focused on our portfolio companies as well as some other fellows, and we could deploy uh, over $1 million and actually send it out of the door in a period of 30 to 45 days to all of them. And because this response was twofold. One was it was focused on any pivot around COVID, if people could see, and if there were some organizations which did phenomenal work that they used their assets to actually do relief work, which meant that they could cover some of the costs, but more importantly, they could motivate the employees and do some work when otherwise it was so difficult to even go out and do some work. So it ranged from pivoting models to also organizational sustenance.
COVID basically was like a sledgehammer, right? So, and it was a sledgehammer for everybody. And we are a multi-sector lender, and it was a sledgehammer for pretty much everybody. But of course, we were, in some sense, the food and agri sector companies seem to have come out of it quickest. Basically, one of the realizations that we had in the first 1 month, 1.5 months, where it was chaos all around, is that it seemed to a great extent that a lot of our, almost majority of our portfolio companies were actually doing better than a lot of what we kept hearing from other sectors. And one of the realizations that we had is all the sectors that we operate in, and I think this is the positive side of being an impact investor, in the sense that all the sectors that we operate in some version is an essential sector. They can't stop. So if you look at the data, we see a very consistent revenue uptick. Now the question is whether this revenue uptick is going to continue, because we have to understand that, like I said, economy was already in some kind of a, problem before COVID happened. Now we have COVID, and like you mentioned, job losses, both at the lower income or informal sector, but very increasingly we are seeing job losses at these slightly higher income segments as we speak today, right? That has just started happening. So there will be an impact on the economy. So we are a little bit worried about that. The second thing is that the impact of COVID is now spreading to the rural or semi-urban locations, which was not the case in April, right? And that is, in some sense, the engine of where India is. Of course, the urban areas are important, but a lot of the consumption actually does happen in the semi-urban locations, non-tier one locations. So we'll have to see how it pans out. So we are watching very cautiously. And the last thing is that, for specific sectors, it became very deadly or, important is, for example, for the clean energy sector overall, where we have a lot of exposure, there was a huge dependence on China. Now we are in a situation where we had an economic issue, we have a health issue, and on top of it, we have trade wars happening with China. So basically everything to do with electronics has got frozen in some way, because we are now in this kind of a hard situation with China. We managed to raise a bulk funding from the US Development Finance Corporation in the middle of all this chaos, which gave us the liquidity to basically able to reconsider lending. So as we speak now, we've started lending once again. We did stop lending in the first 2 months after COVID, because everything was a haze, but we've started lending, and we've started lending in a completely different fashion. It's all virtual due diligence that is going on. The metrics that we are choosing to use is different from what we normally use. So we ourselves are adapting to the situation.
It's that dilemma of how do you manage to be resilient in this time and deliver to the needs that is coming out in your country, at the same time manage it commercially, right? And so one of the early things that we realized was, one, that for a larger thing, this is going to be a huge leadership issue. You need to make sure that the leadership of these businesses are resilient. They have the right expertise and technical support to adapt to this. They also have the right information. The other thing is a lot of these DFIs, and CDC included, made the information that we had shareable externally so that other investors could pick that up and adapt it to their portfolio. And those conversations are getting deeper and deeper to the extent that we now have what we call an investors in health community. So these are investors that invest in private healthcare in emerging markets that have come together, formed an informal community, and we have very strong constant dialogue and knowledge sharing, and also kind of, debottlenecking some of the challenges together.
So one of the first things that we've tried is, for example, for all the new loans that we are making, can we give an extended moratorium, repayment moratorium on the initial period? One of the things that we've been able to do is get support from a lot of the development financial institutions who have a much longer term appetite than any of the rest can have. So the point that I mentioned, that in the middle of all this chaos, we managed to get a large round of funding from DFC, who actually gave us 10-year line, which is something that is unheard of in the Indian market. Now, what that lets us do is that, of course, we as a lender can't take a 10-year risk, because if we make a 10-year loan to an underlying company, the rest of the lenders that we have will get worried and they'll run away from us. So what we are essentially doing is we're making sure that we have a 10-year line on the back, which we can redeploy, customize, refund companies again and again.
In terms of short term, we had to take some steps. For example, and since it went as emergency relief fund, some of them, so I wouldn't like to take some names. So if I may, but there was an organization which is super relevant in terms of working with the weaving community. And when all this reverse migration started, which was easily one of the worst humanitarian crises India has faced. And one of the things was that the weaving community couldn't move away, because suddenly they were feeling quite threatened. And this organization needed to keep giving them some work, and that is a place where we could kind of step in very quickly. I mean, these are kind of short-term calls, if I could call it that, we took. In terms of slightly longer term, I would say that it was more, timely than strategy. Was that one of the company we recently invested in, a company called Hakdarshak, which actually provides, it's a platform which provides benefits to various sections of the society. And it's so topical currently with so much required, there's so much inequality getting created, and you need actually everyone to play a role. There is government benefits. How does it reach? This company is a technology platform which takes the government benefits and makes it available to different sections, which making the whole access seamless. So we invested in a company like that. I would say it was not already in the pipe, it was happening, but I think something like that is going to be super important going forward, because you will need that social. That has been one of the things which has been abundantly clear in this period when we saw the migration and other things happen.
How are investors deploying capital in this time? How are we doing a due diligence to be able to, invest? I think that's a very important question, because many investors we're not able to travel as much as we could. Even if we are sitting in our markets, even if we have teams sitting in the markets, even if they are in Bangalore and the investment in Bangalore, it is still very difficult to do the full-fledged due diligence that we are historically, conduct. At the same time, the need for speed is much more, and as DFIs, we've always traded higher impact over faster investments, because we want to make thoughtful decisions. So how are investors doing that? And the true answer is that there is no right answer right now. I think all of us are, adopting agile decision-making, agile diligence methods, etc. But what has come out of this is, of course, networks have become much stronger, especially investor networks. From that, what has emerged is, DFIs like ourselves have started to do co-investment. But in the current environment, if we are invested in a fund, and that fund is evaluating a deal, we will consider investing alongside them to even as small ticket sizes as 1 and 2 million. Which is not thought of before. It has come out in this environment. It also allows us to play in the small ticket. It also allows us to play in the space of innovation and early investing. There's also another trend in short-term investing, which is innovation. So a lot of innovations happening in health tech, in ed tech, in other tech and other sectors, etc. As well as with the global supply chains constraints, etc. Local manufacturing is starting to see a lot of activity and a lot of local manufacturing, especially in Africa and South Asia. We are starting to see that, and that requires early capital. And so I think short-term investment is that, which is new industries coming up, innovation, debt to create liquidity, and then technical assistance grant capital. So where government spends its time and resources and funding, as well as how government thinks about policy around many sectors. For example, even if you take tech, right? How government, because a lot of things are getting digitized and being delivered online, and how government's going to start regulating that is very unclear. And so all of that will kind of determine a lot about where investor priorities will go.